hop in, but we do have a quorum. So first order of business, you are welcome to join us, but we'll do our Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll get into it. So thank you. Okay. First order of business, meeting minutes from our prior meeting, April 27th. Does any of the commission members have any comment, questions, concerns?
Yeah, just for the grading permits, it doesn't say that it was approved. I didn't see that on there. That should probably go on there, right?
Taking a look now. For item 5, new grading permits. Is that what you're referencing?
Yeah, Duncan Lane, and then Villanova.
Right, I agree. Leah, could we amend the minutes? Thank you.
Yes, I will add that.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? All right, I'll make a motion to approve last meeting's minutes. All in favor? Aye. All right, next item on the agenda, consent agenda. So 746 Sproul Road, one tree to be removed. James or Matt, you want to speak to that address?
Yep, I did a site visit. The one tree to be removed is dead, extremely dead. The resident is taking care of their trees. They have trees that need constant pruning, but they're screened on the road for the residents. The property looked really well cared for. So I didn't have an issue with it.
And what size tree was this and species?
It was a maple.
Japanese maple.
Japanese maple.
Oh,
and
okay.
It was,
so under 30.
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
Yeah. But it was its partner, Japanese maple, was in great shape.
Great.
This one was completely dead.
Okay.
I'm
And
gonna abstain.
this was triggered by grading, I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other comment on the consent agenda?
I'm just going to abstain because we're working on this project.
Okay.
And that's why I gave it really, really extra attention.
Thank you. And thanks for noting, James. So I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Have a second? All in favor? Aye. James abstains. Thank you. All right, item 5, moving into new grading permits, and likely why all of you are here. So do we have anyone from 469 Bryn Mawr Ave here tonight? Good evening. If you could come up to the podium, just introduce yourself, relationship to the project, and a quick overview of the project. If you do have plans, you can set them on that table. Okay. Ian, if you're behind the curtains, if you could bring it up on screen, that would be fantastic. And then while you're introducing the project, we'll get that up on the screen to speak through, and then I'll also open it here as well to take a look. So, floor is yours.
900 Drexel Lane is a single-family ranch house.
Yes, please.
Is that better?
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's a single-family ranch house from the late 50s, early 60s. We are proposing to do a 2-story master suite and living space addition on the back over an area of primarily existing patio and a sunroom that's being removed. It's a really small earth disturbance project. This is not, we had 3 places to put it. This was sort of the best. There's one tree between the house and the pool. The trunks, there are 4 distinct trunks in the tree. We're going to try to keep the tree and do as little trimming as possible. So if we have to take down 1 or 2 of those, sort of wild trunks, we will. But that's the extent of it. We'd like to keep the tree. The owner wants the shade for the pool, and that's sort of where we're at the moment.
Okay, thank you. I don't think we were able to bring it up on screen.
I would have brought it.
That's
Apologies.
okay. I think we'll be okay, just because this was in the agenda packet in regards to having this on public record. So one or a few things that we're looking for when we're looking at these plans where no trees are being removed. So tree protection, I see that you have some of that outlined on your plan. And then also, could you speak a little bit to how access to the construction area is going to be made? Is that, I'm assuming, through the existing paved driveway?
It is, yep. The
Okay.
front windows that are the breezeway and the entry into the house are being replaced as well. So those are being removed, and everything is basically coming through the area between the garage and the house.
Okay, understood. And it looks like, so the existing trees that are near the house, can you speak to how close, any construction is going to get to those, and how you plan on, doing your best to make sure that they're not impacted outside of the pruning that you mentioned?
Yeah, there's really just that guy, and then, we'll just try to keep everybody out of the drip lines for any movement of equipment. We're going to go from the garage around the back, or from the driveway around the back of the garage, and just try to keep people clear of the trees when we, I expect to bring in a pretty small piece of equipment for that.
Okay. Now that I'm reviewing the plans in more detail, I don't necessarily see each tree being protected by tree protection.
We can add that.
Yeah, I would request that you add that, especially to the trees that are, near any excavation or dirt or equipment being moved, just so, roots and things are not impacted.
Subsequent to this submission, we did hire a civil
Okay,
to get on board.
good,
So we hired Houtman to do it, so
good, okay.
hopefully they're on.
Any
Cover
other
that.
questions on the commission?
I think it was just the tree fence, the protection that
Yep.
wasn't on the plan. That's why we put it up there, Matt, right?
It probably wasn't, so, yeah, it's easy
Yeah.
for us to add.
I do see markings that would normally indicate tree protection, but it doesn't appear to be.
I think that's it, though. There's a 5-foot metal fence, which would normally be tree protection fencing.
Sure.
On the survey?
Yeah,
That's
but it
that's an
seems like it's
existing-
roping in the entire area, so it's not really protecting the trees. Maybe it's just,
It's the pool fence,
ah,
part of that pool fence structure.
Yeah.
Understood.
There's an
Okay.
outer metal fence and then an inner pool fence, like a kiddie fence.
So what I would recommend to the commission would be, we can make a motion to approve, providing that the plans get updated back to the township for the trees that are near the construction, making sure that tree protection fencing gets placed around the drip line of the tree. I think I would be okay with that, as long as that gets done.
I would second that.
Okay, all in favor?
aye.
Aye. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Best
very
of
much.
luck with your project.
Mhm.
All right, next item. Is there anyone from 501 West Beech Tree with us tonight? All right, good evening. So if you could just introduce yourself, the project, and if you have any plans, you can lay them on the table there, and we'll see them up on screen.
Okay, I don't have full-size ones with me, but
That's fine.
I know they're in the package, so.
Perfect, we have them, yep.
All right. My name is Bob Wager, I'm the engineer on the project, and I'm representing the owners. Basically, what we're doing is demolishing an existing house, and we're constructing a new house on the lot, and along with a extended driveway, and using part of the existing driveway, and constructing a stormwater management system. We're taking out 9 trees, and some of them fairly good size, but as the lot and the building envelope are fairly small, it's inevitable, and with the stormwater system and driveways and stuff, we're losing a few trees, but they've been looked at by, apparently by an arborist, and a couple are in trouble, some of them are not. I don't have that report handy.
And was that report submitted to the township?
No, it hasn't, it
Okay.
will be. Yeah.
I do not see that with the plans.
No.
Okay.
I didn't know
Yeah.
about
And
it
it
till tonight.
indicates that 15 trees are coming out, where the agenda indicates 9.
No, there's 15 being replaced, 9 coming out.
Right,
That chart on the
Oh,
landscape
okay.
plan
I see.
just lists the trees and their size, or that are coming out, and on the right is how many are being used to replace them. So,
Okay.
there-
Now I see how you're reading that. Okay.
So thank you for that introduction. While doing the math over here, could you speak to some of the ingress, egress, and tree protection for the trees that are being kept on site?
Okay, the trees that are remaining are protected. You'd see there's a line with circles in it. That's the tree protection fence. The railroad track thing, that's our silt fence. And you can, we have protected all the trees that are to remain.
Okay. And I'm assuming you've done your due diligence to try and save as many trees as possible on this lot?
Yes.
Okay.
Seth, I just wanted to clarify, because is the 28-inch poplar right there by the drive really not savable? And is the drive not able to be aligned a little bit to save the 24-inch beech? Those are two beautiful heritage trees.
Well, one of the reasons that drive is there is because the existing drive comes off a very busy road. And we're trying to protect the people by being able to exit on the other road.
But the drive couldn't be moved over
That
a couple
we're
of feet?
still-
Or
Whatever we do, we're still going to be in the root system of those trees. I don't know, there's a whole lot we can do to protect them from.
And you had mentioned out of the 9 being removed, there are a few that are hazardous, but it does look like you are proposing planting the compensatory amount for if the 9 were healthy. So,
Correct.
okay. So there's no potential issue for requiring a hazard tree report in this case. Unless we did, as a commission, feel that we wanted it on file.
I don't see any need for it.
James, I'll put you on the spot. Did you get a chance to look at the planting schedule?
Yeah, selection looks good.
Selection looks good, okay. Of course, we, don't like seeing trees come down, but with a new dwelling, it's tough to position in a way that makes sense. And your compensatory looks okay to me. The tree protection fencing, just to confirm, it's going to be around all of the trees that would be potentially impacted by dirt moving, machinery, and everything else, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else on the commission have any questions or comments? All right.
The only tree I have a comment about, building on Ginny's point, is the 20-plus poplar, 20-inch plus poplar. I can't tell what size it is unless I scroll around here a little bit. Or 28.
Which
There's
one?
Probably
28
28-inch
poplar.
poplar. It's right near the walkway off the driveway.
Right.
So it doesn't look like it's actually in the construction route, and I understand, given the construction that you'd have to do, it may be, perhaps it would get damaged, but is there a way that you could try to save it? And then if it has to go afterwards, so be it, but
Yeah.
it looks like you could keep that tree.
We could reconfigure the walk maybe a little bit, get it farther away.
Yeah.
And it's still, it's going to be, a lot of foundation for the porch is going to be dug there, but we could try and save it. I mean,
Mhm.
problem is that you try and save it, and if you don't make it, you have a large tree to take down next to a new house. And it's,
That's true. And I guess, James, if you look at that, do you see the 28-inch poplar right to the left of the walkway?
I'm trying to find, I just have my phone.
Oh, okay.
So-
Yeah. Like, is it possible with padding that it could be protected and saved? Or, because the walkway, I think, is fine. It would just be the foundation of the house. Is it too close?
Is it a poplar?
Yep.
yeah, it's a tulip poplar.
I think it's gonna get damaged. If it's
Okay.
over.
Okay.
It's all new, right, construction,
Yeah,
walkways, everything?
yeah.
I mean,
So-
if you changed it, of course, you could probably save it, but.
Sure. I mean,
Well,
I would say if you're willing and the owners are willing to reconfigure and try and save it, great. You know, we would certainly prefer that. And if, obviously, the plans get updated, make sure they get back to the township.
Okay.
Any other comments? All right, I'll make a motion to approve. Have a second?
Yep.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Best of luck.
Thanks.
Okay, next address on the agenda, 820 Sproul Road. Do we have anyone from that property here? Welcome. Go ahead and come up. So it looks like we have 900 cubic yards of dirt, 1 tree to be removed, and 1 pool to be put in. So if you could introduce yourself, the project, and run us through, that would be fantastic.
Sure. My name is Angela Bruno, and I'm the owner. So already apologize if I don't know any of the technical answers for this, but
No problem.
I'll try
We'll
my
help you
best.
along.
And we are attempting to put in a new pool and a covered pavilion.
Great. So the 1 tree that's being removed, is that pointed out on the plans? And if you could, there is a orange pointer in the podium. You can use that as your pointing device, if you'd like. Okay. Got it. And the size of that tree, and then also if you know the species of the tree.
Yes, that would make sense.
Yep. The species of the tree.
That's a tulip poplar.
Okay. So it is a 30-inch, is it a healthy tree?
It is.
Okay. So that classifies as being what we call a heritage tree. So, you know, the dirt you're moving plus the tree that you're removing would, you know, be the reason why you're here this evening. Could you speak to some of the tree protection? So what that would be is fencing around existing trees and near the project, so any trees that might be, you know, impacted by this project.
I'm actually not sure what the engineer had put in there for the
Okay,
tree
no worries.
protection. Sorry about that.
Let me take a closer eye at the plans
Mhm.
here.
So Seth, the reason this wasn't on consent was because James and I felt that there are some big trees around construction here. And we felt a little concerned about, like, should the whole commission weigh in on, is there any way to protect the trees?
Sure.
Or is the protection adequate? We
Yeah,
just didn't want to make the call on consent because it seemed like it was, you know, we're talking about some serious trees here.
Sure.
And you're
Yeah.
looking at the 3 big 30-inch trees? Okay.
Yeah, and the grouping of the larger 30-inch trees, so the one closest to the pool, proposed pool, is the one being removed, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then it looks like the tree protection fencing, so it is on the plan, page 3. It looks like it is proposed to be either at or past the drip line, which is great. And then there's a couple smaller trees that are inside the larger fencing that are also individualized in regards to fencing. So there's a 10-inch tree. It looks like it's going to stay near the pool. Is that accurate?
I don't believe I don't think, even though that's the prettiest tree in the lawn, I don't think we were going to be able to keep that one.
Okay, so that one would also be removed. Are there any other trees that are going to be removed outside of that 10-inch and then the 30-inch?
No.
Okay. Yeah, it looks, that 10-inch is just right at the edge of the pool, so no way to save that. All right, any other questions, comments?
Where's your tree replacement? The number of trees that you're replacing these two by and the species?
I was told by my engineer that he thought that this meeting, you guys would tell me how many trees that I would need to replace it with.
Sure.
We can do that?
Yeah. Yeah, so for heritage trees, we do require 6 replacement trees. And we do have a recommended tree list that's available on the Radner.com website. And if you reach out to the township, they can certainly provide that to you. So what we would need for you to revise the plans with would be provide a tree table, and we also have that available on the website, of the tree or trees coming out, the trees going in, there's a replacement formula, and then we need to see where the proposed trees are going as well. So if you could go back and revise the plans with all of that, I think everything else checks out, looks fine, but we just need to see the replacement trees. Okay.
So overall, you would need 7 trees. 4 have to be large canopy.
Sure, yep, you got
Okay.
it. Yep.
But just a question, was there any consideration to leaving in the 30-inch tree? Because it doesn't even look like the drip line, goes over the pool.
Yeah,
So-
I had asked my engineer, I was like, if it's possible, we'd love to leave it. He was just worried that the roots were gonna be affected, and so I think he just assumed that we would be taking it out, but it is right on the edge. I preferred that we leave it as well.
So I'll look to James or Matt. Is there a way that we could protect that tree? It's almost similar to the last case where you're digging like a foundation, in essence, when you dig a pool.
So which way would they be coming up with the construction vehicles? Do you know, the left side of the house or the right side?
Yes, over here.
Is that
So the same side as the trees.
same side? So,
There's a septic system there too, but it's tricky getting in.
yeah, so that tree would probably
And is
be
the,
hurt.
for the pool, is the grade coming up or down significantly?
No.
Okay, so staying fairly close to what it is.
Mhm.
That's good.
But you're right, if there's heavy machinery going over those routes,
Sometimes we can
Doesn't
put
feel
down
right.
padding, so I think that may be okay. It's more so cutting where the pool is. Like, would you cut into the roots? That's my understanding, or that would be the
Right.
concern.
would you be amenable to talking with your builder and seeing if, maybe saving the tree, and then if, it's declining over the next couple of years, then remove it? See if they can try and save it?
Sure.
Okay. So if you go that route, then it's just the 1 10-inch that would have to come out. And in that case, that does not trigger the ordinance, but I think we would still want to see some updated plans,
Yeah,
just to indicate that.
right. Because per the scale, it's about 20 feet away.
Okay. 20 feet from the pool's edge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Were you planning on starting this soon?
We had no intended start date. We've been working on it for a few months and
Okay, sure.
hoping by the end of the summer to at least start it, but we
Mhm.
had no idea how
Gotcha.
long it was going to
Okay.
take.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't need to change the plans at all because everything's there already, right?
Right.
So if you wanted to try to save it, and it's good with you, your engineer, whoever's going to make the decision, ask them to, whoever does construction, put down mats or put down some wood chips or mulch or something on top. So any machines that come in will, it won't pack it down too much to the ground.
I
It will
guess-
help save the tree.
Now that I'm looking at it more closely, your plans don't necessarily indicate that that 30 is being removed. So to James's point, I think he would be fine as is. Now, the only consideration to the commission is if, you know, if the owner goes this route, then we don't get the promised 6 trees, right? And the risk of maybe that tree dying. So we can't obviously require you to do one way or the other. But I think, you know, it's in our best interest to try and save that 30-inch tree. I think it would be, you know, a nice shade to the pool. Might have to clean up some extra leaves here and there, but if you're willing to try and save it, let's try and save it.
Yeah, I would do that, especially since you want it, and especially since we know we can soften the issue with what James just recommended, mats or wood chips, things like that, and that it is a good 20 feet away from the pool. That
Yeah,
would be my
no.
vote.
If anything changes and the builder says, no,
Yeah.
we need to dig 4 feet where that tree is, then at that point, revise the plan, provide the replacement tree formula with the replacement outlines per the table, and then we can re-review it. But at this point, I think I would make a motion, you know, to accept the plan as is with understanding that the homeowner is going to try and save the tree.
Yep.
And we're all set for this project. Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Best of
Great.
luck. If you have any questions, just reach out to the township. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is Eagle Radner Road demo. Anyone from, good evening. You are ready to rock and roll. All right.
Good evening. Patrick Spellman with Site Engineering Concepts. Joe Morrissey with CG Wayne is here with us also. This is a project that you folks had seen back in June of last year and approved. There are no real changes to it. We're here for a procedural. We submitted a demolition grading permit ahead of the land development process is still waiting for the final recording. So to get the project started, we submitted a grading permit for the demolition to get started. And procedurally, we had to come here. It is, like I said, the same plan
Yep.
that you had seen in June, right down to the number of trees to be removed, the number of trees to be replaced, the species. None of those tables have changed. None of those information has changed.
Okay. In regards to grading, since you're at this phase, has anything changed grading-wise?
No, it is the same
Exact
grading.
same,
I mean,
okay.
this is the same plan.
Got it. Okay.
All these plans are the same plans you saw back in June.
Yeah.
One caveat is that we had to change an easement. We moved an easement 20 feet. So the trees had to shift around to make sure that they weren't in the easement. So same trees, instead of just being on this side, they wound up on the other side of the easement.
Okay. And the trees being planted, just to
Correct.
clarify.
The new
Okay.
trees.
Okay.
Okay.
But that easement didn't affect anything else, grading or otherwise?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay. I know that we reviewed these plans in detail last summer, so,
Right.
go ahead.
No, and each plot winds up going through the grading permit process also.
Right,
So-
right. Okay. I don't have any further concerns. Does anyone else?
No.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
All right, thank you. and
Thank you
good luck.
again. Bye.
All right. Next on the agenda is 416 South Ithan. And looks like this is a new home, 40 trees to be removed.
My name's Jim Musselman. I'm with Yawn Engineering. We're the civil engineers for the project. The applicant proposes to tear down an existing single-family dwelling and construct a new single-family dwelling along with pool, patios, walks, driveway. I think you can kind of tell in the plans the site's pretty challenging slope-wise. It's about 8% across, so finding the right spot for the house, the driveway, the parking, basically off-street parking because it's South Ifen, so busy street. So we had to include some extra off-street parking, which requires some removal of some extra trees. We show, I believe it was 34 hazardous trees to be removed. Mike Gillen is the arborist who went out and assessed all the existing trees on the site. Some are removed because they're hazardous, or they're all being removed because they're hazardous, but some aren't in the area of the construction. So, and then we have 5 additional trees being removed that are healthy that we list on sheet 1 as well.
And of those 5 healthy, it looks like they're all 16 to 18 inch, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah,
They're,
okay.
yeah, it's 6 to 16. 2 6s, a 10, a 14, and a 16.
Sure. Okay. And just to clarify, a hazard tree report was submitted, correct?
That's what I wasn't sure of. I didn't actually deliver the package. Did you guys see one? What's one?
I do not see it in here with the plans.
We have one. We have it, and
Okay,
We did, I went out there, inspected the property, and,
Okay.
You're not gonna email it right now, but it was a thorough report of.
could you speak into the mic, please? And then if
And
you have
just
any.
introduce yourself.
Yes,
Okay.
please, thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Gillen from MG Tree. So I was just saying that I did respond out there, and I did a thorough report, and I could email it right now from my iPad. There were 34 hazardous trees, and the thorough report identifies each tree by number. And also with that report are 34 clear, detailed pictures of all the deficiencies of the trees.
Okay. Could you, just while you're speaking, put some of those photos on the table just so we can see some of the conditions of the site and the trees? And then Leah, to confirm, sorry, Leah, do you know if we got the hazard tree report?
That would have been turned in with this to Trish, and no, she would have
Okay.
had it here.
Okay, so we'll need to have that submitted. So being that there was an existing dwelling there, it looks like the footprint is changing, obviously. Could you speak to, the overall condition of, it appears as if the lot wasn't necessarily maintained, and just speak to, some of these photos in detail and the types of hazard that they're causing?
Sure. So the property was neglected for many years, and it kind of reflects on the condition and health of these trees. So there are pretty much, I'd probably say about 25% of them are dead, and the other ones are in rapid decline or a complete hazard. Also, I think it was probably about 30% were ash trees that were infected with the emerald ash borer. And you can see, I pretty much circled each tree, the different issues, and the ones that are clear are the rot at the lower trunk area. And I think also because of the slope of the front, the water was constantly washing out the roots. So a lot of these trees have exposed root system. But I do have, so there's 34 trees, and I do have pictures of all, but I'm not going to be able to fit them on this.
That's fine.
But I could pass them around, but they are included in the report, and I'll make sure that I email them
Sure,
tonight.
yes, thank you. John, did you get a chance to go out on site and take a look at this?
I did not. I did speak with Mike Gillen. He did show me some pictures verifying that some of these trees were ash. I believe there was
Could you turn your mic on, John? Thank you.
17 of them were ash trees, I believe, from what you sent me, Mike. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. John,
Mike,
did you-
Mike had a question regarding the compensation for the ash trees.
Got it, understood. Did you have any concerns with what you saw? Excuse me, John?
I mean, I really only looked at the ash trees, the pictures that he sent. I mean, Mike's been in front of us before. I value his opinion, and obviously you can see the Ganoderma on the third picture to the right. I mean, these pictures are indicating and indicative of, root decay.
So the way things netted out, obviously, there's no compensatory requirement, but are there any planned plantings on site?
Yeah, the applicant proposes to plant quite a few, I think up to 15.
I think so, 10 to 15.
Okay.
Mix of arborvitae and other deciduous trees.
Okay, and that was not outlined on the plans, correct?
No, we
Okay.
didn't,
Sure, yeah,
yeah.
that's fine.
I'm wondering, what's hard to see is the 5 heritage trees. You have 4 sycamores and a pine tree that you're taking out that are all 30-inch.
Yes.
And you're saying that they're hazardous. Can you just speak to those?
So the beech trees have root decay. Like I said, they were neglected for many years, so they're definitely a hazard because there's a concern that they may fail, and they're large trees. And I think 2 of them are actually over the roadway. The pine trees have lost its lower branches through several storms throughout the years, and all that's left of the pine trees is just the canopy. And some of those branches are damaged, so it's kind of an unbalanced canopy. And when we get these storms, it's just a disaster waiting to happen when the wind gets a hold of those pine trees that have been damaged before, and there's only the top canopy. It almost acts like a sail and pushes them over.
And go ahead.
I was going to say, do you have any photos of the 30-inch trees?
Sure.
Specifically that 30-inch sycamore.
Yeah, there's a couple sycamores, 4 of them actually, that are 30-inch.
Mm-hmm.
That's completely hollowed out.
Okay.
See if I can find some more.
Yeah, I can't really see that.
And while you're digging that up, in regards to tree protection of existing trees that are staying, I know that wouldn't be your purview, but could we swap mics and talk about tree protection for a couple of minutes?
You guys,
Actually, yeah, let's stay on the 30 inches for a couple minutes, and then we can get back to that. Apologies.
there's another, I think that was one of the largest trees there, and it's pretty evident, you can see the bottom that it's completely hollowed out.
Mhm.
Meets the bottom of the ground. And that's pretty much the condition of the majority of these trees on site.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions regarding the hazardous trees?
So,
Okay.
so on the perimeter there, along the street, going from left to right to the new driveway, all of those trees that you're taking out, they're all decayed and dying?
So what location?
Along the street. The
Okay,
whole,
along the street.
the whole, you have sycamores there, you got pine trees there.
Yes.
And I was out there and I looked at them, but that whole row there, everything you're planning on taking out is a dead tree or a,
Correct. Yes. It's either dead, in rapid decline, or it has some hazardous issue.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Quick question about, it's a new construction, right?
Correct.
So do you guys have to plant trees for saldo, like along the road, do you know, or anything like that?
No, because it's just grading permit, so it doesn't fall under.
It doesn't fall under that,
Yeah.
okay. I would just recommend that if, I know you're planting a lot of trees, but try to plant as many as possible because I'm familiar with that spot.
Sure.
And I've seen the trees and I can't remember anybody ever maintaining that place. But with all those trees gone,
Yeah, I think.
a lot of neighbors are probably going to be wondering what's going on. Try to plant up that front with some nice large canopy trees, make everybody happy, if you can. Recommendation.
No doubt. We have a
So-
list of trees that we're gonna plant.
Yeah, and just for the commission's sake, I am looking at an aerial view, and you can tell
Oh, that's
that
good.
that property has many dead trees compared to the surrounding canopy, so definitely needs some love. All right, any other questions on the hazard trees before we talk about tree protection?
Could I just, oh, Seth, do
Sure.
you mind if I make a comment?
Yes.
Sorry. So I'm Lisa Borowski, I'm the Fourth Ward Commissioner. This is Properties in Fourth Ward, and I just want to piggyback on what James said. You know, when you guys cut all these trees down, and I understand you guys are going to decide with regards to the hazard, it is definitely going to cause an uproar in the area. I mean, you're basically taking down every tree on that lot, pretty much. So I would just appreciate if we could know when you guys are going to do this work, or if the township can communicate, so I can communicate that out to residents. You know, people always assume that, you know, the trees are just being cut for no reason. So I just would ask if there could be some sort of communication as to when you might start the work, and I can push that out to the ward, and people can know, because, you know, basically cutting every tree on a lot is always cause for concern. And James, I thank you for your comments. You're right, the neighbors are going to be a little concerned. Have you guys engaged with the neighbors at all to let
That's what I
them
was going to
know?
ask. Jeff, have you met with some of the neighbors?
The neighbors are thrilled. The house hasn't been taken care of for 20 years or so. It's condemned, and they're extremely excited for us to beautify the property. It's a gorgeous plan. We're going to put lots of landscaping and trees, and the neighbors seem absolutely thrilled. They can't wait.
Great, thank you.
What I was told.
The
Okay.
one thing, though, I would say, when you look at it online, on Google, the trees, even like the 30-inch sycamores right on the road, are fully green. So they don't look, like, to the average person, they don't look like they're in decline. They don't look like they're a hazard. So I do kind of side with what Lisa and James are saying. It's going to be a shock when they all come down. So I know you mentioned something about planting arborvitae. That really would not create the same effect. It would be more so the large
agree.
canopy trees and maybe arborvitae underneath them.
The arborvitae would be between properties, not along the right of way.
Yeah.
I think you would
Oh, okay.
plant in larger
Understood.
canopy trees just outside the right of way.
And is there any way to save the large? Yeah,
Yes,
just,
yes, please.
We're aqua owners, and
Could you speak in front of the mic, please? Thank you.
we put a list from the recommended trees, very beautiful big trees, and we put a list on the plans that we submitted based on that list. So
It's
if you
not
want to show
ready
them.
to be submitted.
Oh.
Yeah, we updated the plans with proposed trees in case you guys wanted
Sure,
to see
okay.
them. So, here the arborvitae we were talking about, and we just showed two. Just
yeah.
but I believe the intent would be to put a line.
And which sheet are you looking at?
This is not submitted yet.
Oh,
This is
okay.
just if you guys asked, where are we proposing trees?
Okay.
If we had to replace the 5 that we're removing, this would show 5 replacements to meet that.
Yeah.
So, right now, we just have 3 silver lindens along the road right behind the right of way. And then we just show 2 arborvitae now, but I think the intent would be to put a screen of arborvitae along that property line.
Okay.
Okay. And with the 3 large heritage trees right along the road, actually maybe even 4, there isn't a way to prune them and to save them versus taking them down?
No, I think it's too much of a hazard, too much of a risk leaving those trees. Like I said, that property has been taken care of for many years. So I know from, when you look at Google Earth, they look like beautiful trees because there's some greenery, and the canopy looks like it's decent, but when you actually get up close, you'll see.
Okay.
Also, there's actually the power line that runs along the roadway there, and Asplund's been there so many times, and they cut off just a portion of the tree where it's made it lopsided and unbalanced.
That's all the
Right.
sycamores, right?
Yeah. But the power line is on the other side of the road, not the same side as the trees.
Okay, well, they still cut it back, because the
Yeah.
branches are growing over the roadway.
Yeah.
But it's still unbalanced, the tree.
Yeah, so would it make sense, since we haven't actually seen the hazardous tree submittal, but I'm glad you did all the work, that we could have someone go out and confirm it?
That was where I
They
was.
have to, anyway. I think John goes out and does all the hazardous
Right.
reports.
Yeah, my,
So before Mike does the tree removals. We'll have to
Okay.
submit a hazardous report, and then John goes out.
That's correct. Leo will pass them over to me, and I'll go out and confirm each one.
And then if
Okay.
anything comes back that's not, then you would,
And then I'll have to compensate and rewrite the plan.
Right. Yeah, that
Okay.
was going to be my recommendation. Let's talk about tree protection real quick.
Sure.
I see on page 5 of our plans, it is outlined. And just speak to the healthy trees and how you'll be entering the site with equipment.
Sure. So construction access will be via where the new driveway is going to be located. There are healthy trees up here we're saving, so we're proposing tree protection fencing along there. In the back here, there's a tree back here. We have tree protection fencing around. And then there are no healthy ones there. We have silt side. There are a couple healthy down in the corner, but they're pretty far from construction. Over here, there's 2. I believe they're pine.
It looks like that,
Pines.
that protection is going right through one of the trees?
Over here?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's the existing driveways. They're on the driveway.
okay.
So I don't know where you'd put it. Like,
Oh, I see. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
so it's hard to show. I mean, it
Sure.
could be moved after the asphalt's removed and
Yeah,
circle them.
I think that's your only option, so that's fine.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
And then we have another little bit we're saving. Right here's a 12-inch tulip that we're saving, and that has tree protection fencing.
Okay.
Also.
And at what point is the existing drive going to be removed? Is that during the construction phase, after?
Yeah, during.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that'll be one of the first. I mean I don't want to. Yeah, that'll
Okay.
be one of the first things to go.
So obviously, I'm sure they will not go deeper than they need to, but just being cognizant of the roots of those trees close to the drive when they chew that up.
Sure.
Taking a little bit of extra care when they get to the area with trees. Okay. Anyone have any questions on tree protection fencing or ingress egress? Okay. I'm going to make a motion that what we'll need is the hazard tree report submitted. Our township arborist will go out and, verify, check, and then I would propose that we have them come back so that we can review this and just verify that everything is copacetic. Do you have a second?
Yep, second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so if you could please revise those plans and then come back, that would be fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you. Or not the plans, I'm sorry.
Got it.
Provide the
Submit
report.
the report, okay.
Submit the report, come back, we'll review it, and then at that point, we'll determine if it's approved or not.
Okay.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is 1001 Eagle Road.
Mhm.
Good evening. Rob Lambert here for the applicant.
Good evening.
This is a little bit different than a lot of the projects you see. We're not actually asking for any recommendation tonight. This is really just an introduction. It's a little different scale project. This is between Valley Forge Military Academy, which you can see off to this side, and Cabrini University on this side. And so this is the Cabrini Athletic Field here. St. David's Golf Club would be off to the top of the page. Eagle Road is down at the bottom of the page. We've had numerous meetings with neighbors in the community on site, and one of the things everybody says when they get up there is they never knew it was there. Everybody passes by on Eagle Road and doesn't realize that this upper area is here. So we looked at this is going to be a home for the aged, is the technical term in the code, more commonly known as the life care residence. So we'll have senior living. So you'll have independent living, and then a personal care and memory care building. That's all here. Parking is under actually each one of these buildings. For interior parking, There's guest parking lot in between the buildings here. The existing driveway will be partially reused coming up. We have to regrade some of it, coming all the way into the site, following the path. So we started looking at trees, and we had a arborist come out, take a look at the trees. We've identified 106 dead, dying, or diseased trees on site. Site has been not maintained for many years at this point.
How many total trees?
There's about 700 total trees on site.
Okay.
So, what does that come out to be? 15% of the trees. Now, there may be more dead, dying, and diseased just because we didn't go off into the areas that were not really within the project area. So we didn't really analyze that area quite yet. But we did look at the trees. One of the things is if you go onto the site, you can see actually one of the houses, a tree came down right through the middle of it. So there's a house that has chain link fence around it, and it's been like that for the 3 years I've been working on the project. So it's been there for a while. But what I'll do is I'll show the existing conditions plan.
I was just going to ask. Thank you.
So currently on site, there's 26 homes, and you can see those as little brown boxes on this plan. There's a driveway, various driveways on the site. There's 2 academic buildings up to the top. I'm going to call this kind of the plateau, right? It's not perfectly flat, but it's the flatter area of the site. There are existing tennis courts, a basketball court, a swimming pool. In the upper right-hand corner is a softball field that's currently used by Cabrini. And then additional houses. On the left or west side of the site, there is a creek and what's labeled as Lynch Road. It's really an internal driveway to Valley Forge Military Academy going through the west side of the site. On this plan, it's hard to see on the screen, we submitted as a supplemental plan. It identifies the existing trees to remain in green, the existing dead, dying, or diseased trees in red, and then existing trees to be removed in the purple color.
And which sheet is that?
It said Shade Tree Supplemental 1.
15.
Let me scroll on down there, sorry.
I skipped over the 19-page plan set because I didn't think that you would be interested in the lighting plan.
We like when you save paper.
Mhm.
The next plan is let me just see if I can straighten that out. So this is the same plan, and I've left all the trees on this plan, but it shows the proposed layout. So you can start to see where the proposed buildings are, the driveways, the grading, and that's really how we started to identify what trees needed to come out as part of this development.
And could you speak a little bit to the proposed structures and if there were any considerations of outside of the plateau-ish, moving them around for the nature of keeping trees, positioning around trees?
So outside of the plateau, right? So we do have this plateau area, and this is going to be our area of development, right? There's really not going to be any trees saved up in this plateau area. We will be replanting, but as part of development, we'll be doing a lot of earth moving. As you can imagine, a senior living community, we have to be very cognizant of slopes, how steep things are, so we can have ADA accessibility, make sure that people are able to walk around and circulate. And so there will be a lot of grading and associated improvements. Outside of that area, yes, we did look at trees. We also have to consider steep slopes because the steep slopes, we're not allowed to touch any of the steep slopes.
Sure.
And then consider grades of where the driveway goes and site distance. So taking all those factors in is really what drove to the design of the plan.
Okay. In regards to the existing homes that are staying, are those being rehabbed, I'm assuming?
Correct. There's 5 existing homes. They haven't been fully programmed yet. There's discussion of potentially having them as staff housing. Also, they could be individual living units for the senior housing.
Okay. And then I'm assuming there's a mix of healthy and hazard around those existing homes. The planned rehab, knowing that it's not, finalized, would it be rehabbing to the same square footage, adding square footage?
That'll be to be determined.
Okay.
Right now, it's envisioned rehabbing the existing. We have not had the ability to get into all the houses to do
Sure.
a full analysis of them. Valley Forge still owns the property. Once we're able to do that full analysis, we'll be, better equipped to say, how exactly they will be rehabilitated.
Okay. When is the planned transfer of ownership from Valley Forge to?
So part of
the
this
owners?
will be a lot line change plan. So this is an existing parcel. There's various parcels owned by Valley Forge. We have to do a lot line change to actually create the parcel, and so that's part of this land development process. Once we can create the parcel, we'll be able to go to closing to be able to do that. I would imagine if we have to come back to modify any of those houses, we would be back in front of you. But I wanted to take this opportunity to invite either individually or in groups to come and walk the site. We'd be happy to meet you there. Unfortunately, our landscape architect couldn't be here tonight. He's on a retreat with his office. But we'd be happy to meet, walk the site, take a look at it, look at the trees. And when you say, there's 102 or 106 dead, dying, or diseased trees, when you actually are out there, you see a lot of the trees that are, there's some that are standing that don't have a leaf on them.
So out of the, so you mentioned 700 total trees, 106 hazard trees to be removed. How about the number of healthy trees planned to be removed?
I'm not sure if they're quite healthy, but ones that we have not identified as being dead, dying, or diseased, there's 125 that we're removing.
Okay. So 125 plus the 106?
Correct.
Okay.
And is that in a tree table here on the drawing, and if so, which sheet?
It would be sheet 12 of 19 of the plan set. So there was a landscape plan. It identifies the various calipers of the trees. We're removing 80 trees under 18 inches, 36 trees 19 to 29 inches, and 19 trees over 30 inches.
And the proposed trees to be planted, does it match the compensatory?
Yes, I believe, off the top of my head, I believe there was 302 proposed. We can meet that requirement on site. It isn't an issue. I've had conversations with John Hosbach about potentially using this site as, we will have the code compliant plan to meet it, but also talk about potential alternative plans that may be a better plan rather than just meeting the numbers.
Sure.
And the better plan would be taking a look at the areas that will remain as woodlands and trying to supplement them, potentially protect them from deer browse to get an understory, because what you are running into is that you have a lot of canopy trees without much understory. And whether we would do, kind of full size, or we do areas with, smaller caliper, and protect it to try to get those as healthier woodland, would be something we're open to. Again, if this board said, no, meet the numbers, we can meet the numbers, that's not a problem.
So Seth, if I can make a recommendation, I know Matt was on the site. I'm going to let him speak to that. But I would feel, in the best interest of the township, we should meet out there one evening.
Yes.
If we can get all parties to walk through and really see what's going on out there.
That would be
Okay.
great.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
agree.
really- I
So
like
we
that
can coordinate
invitation.
that offline.
I'd like to make one comment.
Frank.
I was out at the site also, and one of our goals here is to maintain and hopefully increase the canopy in Radnor Township. I did a measurement on your property, and you've got a 70% canopy there right now. I don't know how that's going to be affected with the trees. I just couldn't figure that out from the plans that you submitted. But as we go forward, if we could think in terms of canopy, that would be very, very helpful to our process. So I see a lot of trees being taken down along the roadway, and I don't understand why that would be necessary unless you were just widening the road.
Which roadway when you say roadway?
The entrance roadway. Like down towards the beginning, you have a lot of red.
So
You'd have to look at the other one.
Those are the hazardous
right. So
ones.
so the red is the hazard trees. So a lot of the trees that we're removing down in that area are hazard trees.
Okay, let me correct myself. They weren't hazard trees. They were the purple then.
Okay, the purple trees, there are some right along this driveway. We have to regrade the driveway. Right now, the grades of the driveway are non-conformance with township code. It's too steep when you come in. And so when we create the proper slopes of the driveway coming in, we have to cut in that area, which will eliminate, there's probably 5 trees or 6 trees in this area that will need to be removed to accomplish that. And maybe this is when we're on site, we can look at it. And if there's a particular tree on the fringe and we can add a wall or something to preserve that tree, we're happy to do so.
Okay, thank you.
If there's a tree right in the middle of the development, obviously, there's not much we can do about that tree.
I would like, if possible, to work with maybe one of your people to see what the impact on the canopy would be. It would be
Yeah.
an interesting exercise.
Yeah, and what I like to do when we do that is to take out, make a consideration of what is dead, dying, or diseased, because I think some of that canopy is a false canopy, especially when you get up into the plateau area. We've identified many trees up in that area that,
I eliminated them.
yeah,
They didn't become canopy, they became grass.
yeah.
Could you speak to some of the community involvement, neighbors, communication, going around talking to neighbors?
So I want to, let's see here. I have not done all of the meetings. The applicant has done some on his own. The meetings, obviously, we've met with Cabrini next door, so we talked to them. Valley Forge is obviously selling to us. We've had meetings with the St. David's Board to talk to them. As far as community meetings, starting, say about a year ago, and don't quote me on the dates, it's been a while, we started having community meetings. We actually started with a completely different plan when we first filed. Our first plan actually had a building, the main building, located much closer to Eagle Road. It was meant to look like an old estate house that was added to as your main building, and then different housing type up in the plateau area. The clear feedback we received from neighbors was, we would prefer you don't do anything down by Eagle Road, do everything up in the plateau. And so we actually changed the entire plan, refiled a new special exception application for the modified plan, and pursued that. We received a special exception from the Zoning Hearing Board for the use. We were in front of the Planning Commission as a recommendation for that. And I want to say we've had maybe a half a dozen larger community meetings, innumerable individual meetings along the way.
Okay. Could you speak to, I know this is outside of the tree purview, but the type of facility and other options that are in the area compared to, what this facility would offer Radnor Township residents?
So the interesting thing about this is not a product that Radnor Township currently has. So from a senior living perspective, is Radnor is lacking. Some surrounding communities do have facilities like this. I would, nothing, you can't make a direct parallel. Everybody has their own differences, but, if you think of like a Waverly Heights, Beaumont's different, but Dunwoody, Whitehorse, that type of community where you do have independent living, but you do have a separate building that would provide additional care to the residents and actually outside residents. And so whether it's you or your loved ones would have an option to be in Radnor Township.
Great, thank you. I don't have any further questions. I think, we'll work offline with you. Thank you for the offer to do a site visit, check it out. Does anyone have any further comment or questions?
So I I'm on the planning commission, so this project came before us, and one of the things that came out of that was that this type of community in a university setting, which it is, offers tremendous opportunity for collaboration between institutions. And it's happened all over the place, Phoenix, San Antonio, and the owner, Mr. Lingo, is interested in like talking to the other entities like Cabrini and Eastern about like how, sort of being part of that community. So, which I think is really exciting.
Yeah, when we spoke with Cabrini was actually a bit excited about it. They have nursing students that would be looking a place to go, right? So you have that synergy of the nursing students going over there. They also allow seniors to audit their classes. And so they were looking at that, and they were looking to have spectators at sporting events, quite frankly. It was having people come and be able to be right next door and go watch a game in the afternoon.
Couple questions. Is that lot being used now? Or is it vacant or?
There are some of the houses currently being used.
Okay.
The classrooms have not been used in some time. When we had a meeting there, they were actually surprised it still had the electric on.
Okay, gotcha.
And so the swimming pool that's there, it may have been a decade that it's been, it's been a while since it's been full.
Got it. And the compensatory trees you have on the table, do they include the hazardous tree removals or?
No.
They don't?
No.
Okay. There's one other thing, but I forget.
You'll have more opportunity.
I think an on-site visit would be really, really important.
That was the other thing. This is for somebody over there probably. I think the on-site visit is good, but you can only have 3 people, right, at a time?
Per the Sunshine Act, yeah.
Yeah. So would you mind making a couple?
No, that's what I said. We're happy to meet individually in small groups, however we need to.
I was going to make a recommendation
No,
that we.
I don't think that's exactly correct.
It
I think
is.
it's 3 people, you can't have more together if you're going to be making decisions. If we're literally walking a property and just observing,
That's right.
I think we're okay.
Eileen's right. We could have the whole group, as long as we don't deliberate.
yeah.
Okay. As long as you take the blame, I'm good. I was accused once. and-
I already got caught. I got caught last month.
We can discuss with the township of how best to facilitate it. We don't want to.
But you're open to 2.
We don't
trips if you
want to
need
cause any problems. We're open to 4 if we need to
Cool.
do 4.
Thank you.
Sure, yeah, we'll work out the details. Thank you. Any other questions from commission members or township
No.
staff?
Any public comment?
I think, thank you for showing the plans, appreciate it. And we'll take some public comment. And we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's Gretchen Grobel with Radnor Conservancy. So I did have a couple of concerns and questions about the project that you were just discussing. And I just wanted to double check on the agenda. It said 114 proposed trees to come out. But at one point you said 106, then 125. So is it actually over 200 trees to come out? I was confused about that.
So the 106 number is the dead, dying, or diseased trees. So if we had no project, those trees need to come out. There's actually some that probably should come out before this is finished, but I don't think that they're actually going to be removed by then. The 125 were other trees that will be removed.
So the 114 is that's not really an accurate number. So I know on.
Gretchen, you saw that on the agenda?
It's on your agenda. 114 trees to come out,
I'm
I
not
think.
seeing it on the printed version, so it might have been corrected. No? It was not on there? Huh.
Okay.
I'm sure the number is going to change by the time.
Okay. So I was looking at and counting all of the heritage trees. There are 19 heritage trees, so over 30 dBH. Some are really massive trees, and all of the heritage trees slated to be taken out are oaks. And I counted all of the oak trees that are slated to be taken out, 63 oak trees. So, so this is just a question for the Shade Tree Commission. I was curious if you guys consider, or the township considers, other major development projects. You have a massive project at the Eastern Development, hundreds of trees in less than half a mile from this proposed project coming down possibly around the same time. It's just a devastating impact to the shade tree canopy. So I'm just curious, is that something that you take into consideration? And I just, would appreciate any kind of pause to consider that impact.
Yeah, thank you, Gretchen. I would say we are, per the owner and the people involved with the project are willing to make sure that this is done right. Speaking to the other project that you had mentioned, obviously that conforms to our current ordinance, but we are planning on, potentially revising parts of the ordinance to, protect more of the canopy for some of these larger projects. So we hear you. Appreciate you, doing the due diligence to take a look at, some of the specific impact regarding the oaks, the heritage trees. And I think the other key thing that will be a part of this project is communication, obviously involving the community, making sure that, there's not another project that people don't know what's going on, and as soon as trees start coming down and buildings start getting erected, there's an uproar. So I think that'll be, the responsibility of the project folks involved to make sure that there's some due diligence there. But the best we can do is follow our current ordinance, and anything that's, going above and beyond is what we like to see, of course. So appreciate the comments.
Thanks. And I just had a quick question on the driveway, the entrance. Is that the existing driveway that's there now?
The location's the same. We do need to regrade it.
Okay, because that's kind of on a blind curve if you're heading towards.
Not really for this commission, but we do have, we looked at the site distance. I believe we had to remove the fence that's there, but we do have the necessary site distance at that location.
Thank you, Gretchen. All right, any other public comment? Good evening.
Good evening. Jim Higgins, former commissioner for 14 years, now retired. I come out of retirement once in a while just to make sure I understand what's going on. I'm here to ask you to take a really aggressive stance on saving trees. I hear developers say, well, this is diseased, or it's dangerous, or it's dying. Make them justify that. I know we have an arborist. I hope he shares my philosophy, and that is we should err on the side of preservation. And just because the developer says, well, it might be a risk or it's going to die anyway, don't go along with that. Take an aggressive position. It's unnerving to see and to hear how many projects are coming before this commission, the Planning Commission, the Parks and Recreation Board, and the Board of Commissioners, where the discussion of tree removal is, it's not the discussion, but the fact of removal of trees is constant. We had an experience, I guess about a year ago, with Fenimore Woods. There was a makeover proposed by this township, this government, to take down 149 trees in Fenimore Woods. And I think this commission went along with that. which is not the right approach to following our ordinances. Through our participation of our community, including our Radnor Conservancy, my family, and a few other people, that project was killed. It's now, I don't know what's going to happen, but we're in the process of working with the Parks and Recreation Board and our Director of Parks and Recreation to come up with something that will keep Fenimore Woods as it is and not try to make it into an Yankee playground or Clem McCrone field. So please, make the developers provide clear and convincing evidence that 231 total trees are going to have to come down. Make them justify and make them prove that, yes, they're dying and they're a risk to human beings. So I would leave you with that idea and tell developers that if they want your approval, they've got to make changes and then come back and see you a second time. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I can just comment a little bit to what Jim said. So, Jim, I do think you're right about Fenimore Woods, and I'm glad that the community did get involved, because so often we are required to follow the ordinance but don't get to subjectively comment as to whether we agree with the proposed project or not, providing they follow the ordinance. And the other part of it is that they were including bushes as part of the replacement trees, which isn't allowed. So for that reason alone, it should have been flagged. And then it was later. The one thing I can tell you in that the ordinance changes that we are proposing, that we agreed upon in the last meeting, is that we said for developers, for Radnor Township, that we are proposing that no more than 20% of the non-hazardous trees shall be removed in any given project. So therefore, the township and the developer would have to come up with some solution in order to honor that. So we did, and there's a few other things, but we did look to make the ordinance more challenging for Radnor Township or developers, because it's just so impactful versus one residential property. And then the other thing we did is we tightened up the definition of hazardous tree, to your point, because sometimes that can become quite the gray area. So John actually gave us a definition around that, and part of it is it must pose a risk to the person, property, or place. And it must have a decline greater than 25%, where right now I think the definition is pretty open for interpretation. So I'm hoping those two things make a difference.
And I have one more thing to add. Thanks to Jim for igniting this in my brain. The most horrendous loss of trees in this township came at the hands of the township itself. The Blue Root Exchange. The Blue Root Exchange. So I wouldn't always blame the development community for some of the actions against trees here.
And to that, I would say, you know, it wasn't the entire BOC that obviously went along with that. And so after that, the BOC did issue an amendment saying that the township had to abide by the ordinance as well, just to make sure that this would not happen again. So we have seen a lot more township plans than we ever used to see before. So I think that's working.
And to add, Eileen, I think when we define hazardous, we need to have a target, like you said, like, you know, property. But that's why I asked if the property was vacant. If there's nobody there, those trees interior don't create much of a hazard. So if we do change the ordinance to include that, it toughens up the, we can't say, don't do the project. We're just an advisory, but we can change the ordinance for compensatory. So there may be more trees, which I'm sure you guys would plant with no problem.
Great. Any other comments on the Eagle Road project? Okay. Thank you. We'll be in touch. Appreciate it. All right, so moving on also being cognizant of time here. So item 6, tree removal without approval, clearing permits, none listed. Item 7, violation notices, none listed. Item 8, old business. So some of these we'll just briefly summarize, some we can discuss, but I don't want to keep us here any longer than necessary. So the fall planting, so a couple of updates. So I did reach out to Dana from PHS to get a list of potential contractors that might be able to help us with bare root plantings in the fall to help offset the township and our volunteer base so we can plant as many trees as possible. So that list is still evolving, and then at some point I will present that list to us. We can discuss and see how we want to approach that. The idea behind that list too would be, just get some general ballparks of, what those companies would be willing to do in regards to, costs per tree, per project, if you will. So that's still in the works, but moving, which is good. And then I've been working on a list of tools to get a quote from Do It Best Hardware. I think it's good to buy local. So I was hoping to get over there this week, but I didn't get a chance. So I actually finalized the list with Ricky. Thank you, Ricky. So I have a list of, the shovels, pickaxes, rakes, leaf rakes, hard rakes, you name it, buckets. So my plan is to get a quote from them, and then of course, we'll go through the appropriate process once we all agree to moving forward with a purchase of said equipment and tools. And I think that's all that I wanted to cover for the fall planting. Just to summarize again, we'll open registration, sometime after Labor Day, after everyone gets back from vacations. What we agreed to last time was also to do a bare root planting for the fall, the number of trees TBD, and looking to do 100% shade trees for this go around versus a mix of flowering and shade. So any other quick comments on the fall planting?
The only comment I have is if, depending on the size of the job, you would have to ask the contractor to go through pen bid because they can't award it without
Anything 25 or over,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, the idea would be all groups involved. So, have the township plant some, have us with volunteers plant some, and then have a contractor plant some. So, and keeping our budget in mind, I don't know that we would get close to that 25 number, but certainly we'll keep that in mind, and thank you, James. Okay, next item, the ordinance update. So, good news, the 263-6 discussion that we approved last time in regards to moving that forward for an amendment. John Rice, our solicitor, did draft that amendment, and it is going to go in front of the board for ratification, planning to June 13th, so that would be the first BOC meeting in June. Tied to that, we have some advancement on 263-3, which was personnel of commission. So the last time we spoke, we had some good conversation around, what makes sense in regards to representation on the Shade Tree Commission, and, the involvement between us and Parks and Rec. I think we kind of concluded that, in best case scenario, we would prefer to keep it as is. We talked about some sort of, unofficial liaise process, if you will. Since then, there has been some, I'll say, advancement, if you will. So there's just no one to be found to represent Parks and Rec on this board. So actually, as a part of the proposed ordinance amendments, so there's 3 specific ones. I'll mention the third here in a second. The township did ask to have John Rice draft up the removal of the requirement of having a Parks and Rec person sit on the Shade Tree Commission. I had heard about it first earlier this week. So I was also a little bit, I had to absorb the information. I did speak with Tammy directly, and, it just sounds like, as we discussed last meeting, sitting on two boards, as Matt knows, it's a big burden, and if we can't fill the seat, we can't fill the seat. So we did discuss, if there is a project that comes across our commission that affects Parks directly, of course, Parks and Rec is going to be at the meeting. They technically would lose, a voting seat, if you will. But at the end of the day, that shouldn't necessarily affect if the project happens or doesn't happen or what have you. Because again, it's just one seat, so you can't sway the vote one way or the other due to that. So all things considered, after I thought through that, I was fine with that change to remove that requirement, but I did just want to take a moment to discuss it as a commission to make sure we're all on board with that, given that it has been, put into a proposed amendment for signature on the 13th. Any comments on that? Seem reasonable? Okay, sounds good. So obviously, we'll still partner with Parks and Rec as much as possible, but I think that'll allow them to focus on Parks and Rec that much more so, and then us do the same. And then the third item proposed, which doesn't necessarily have anything to do with us, but just worth noting because there's 3 items on that amendment proposal, is Parks and Rec are going from 9 to 7 members. 2 of those were required to be Radnor Township School Board members, which was an interesting requirement, so that's no longer being required. So again, nothing for us to necessarily comment on, but just noting that. All right, so that's it regarding the ordinance update upcoming on June 13th. Moving into the comprehensive update, Eileen, if you wouldn't mind just summarizing, I know you'd sent a summary email, but just mentioning some of the decisions that we made last time, and then the plan would be one thing at a time, right? So once our current amendment gets signed, then we'll start working on having John Rice draft up the next set of amendments that we have and work through that. So Eileen?
Sure. So we basically came up with 6 areas that we're amending. So one is regarding membership, and we just clarified there that each member can be for a term of 5 years, not to exceed 2 terms. Not to exceed 2 terms was the part that was added. And then the next item was around the tree replacement formula and hazardous trees in the definition section. So it's basically what I just spoke about. How for Radnor Township and for developers, we adapted a more stringent requirement regarding heritage trees. Can't remove more than 20%. And also regarding biodiversity. So for projects with over 20 trees, no more than 1 tree should be take up 25%. And then for 100 trees, no more than 10% should be of 1 tree type. Hazardous trees, we tightened up the definition to the point that I just spoke about before. And then moving on to the third item, we did land development and subdivision. The wording says right now in the event replanting is impractical as determined by the Shade Tree Commission. The applicant has the option of making a payment, but it doesn't stipulate what the payment is. So in the update by the ordinance, we have residents $400 per tree, developer $800 per tree. And that the hazardous tree count does count for developer and township. It does not count for residents. Okay. The fourth item was heritage tree removal, and this really was just a cleanup of the ordinance. So we got rid of the application filing fee because there is no application filing fee. So we deleted that text. And there was also text saying that you must replace DBH per DBH, but that directly contradicts the tree replacement formula. So we got rid of that. So just a little cleanup there. The fifth item is planting. The current Ordinance reads, encourages residents to plant and maintain street trees. Reference Appendix A for recommended trees. We tightened it up for the township and said that replacement trees must adhere to the recommended trees per Appendix A. And then the last item is maintenance. So we said the current ordinance reads, public utilities planning to do any maintenance must apply for an annual permit. We changed the text to, or are proposing to change the text to, public utilities planning to do any maintenance must apply for an annual permit and are encouraged, because we cannot force it, to review plans with the Shade Tree Committee before removing any trees. So that would be our PICO friends, that we would like to have a heads up as to what is being proposed to be removed. And that is it.
Great, thank you, Eileen. Any comments on the proposed revisions that we've discussed? So that'll be our priority batch. And then there are still things that we'd like to run through as well. And just one note on processes, we'll run this the same way that we just did our most recent amendments, which would be we would run this by Bill White, John Rice, just as a sanity check, any of the BOC members that would like to have kind of preliminary comments. We would first float this by in a memo form to the BOC, get their approval, and then at that point we would have John Rice draft up the official amendment to then be ratified. So a little bit of a process, but it involves everyone, which is great, and we get input from everyone involved. And I think, as agreed, if any of these gets caught up in details where it could potentially hold up the rest of the batch being moved forward, at that point in time, we can look to maybe hold that specific one back and have it run through on its own, kind of thing. So I think this is great. Thank you, Eileen. And next step is we'll work together, get a memo going, and get that over to Ricky, Bill White, and Lisa can take a peek, and we can get some potential comments that way. Great. Anyone have any comments on the ordinance update specific to what Eileen just mentioned? Great. Item D, Shade Tree Ordinance Communication Plan. So you should have a printed copy of the master flyer that I had sent around earlier in the week. So this is an updated version based off of what we've seen a few times now. Generally just making language a little bit broader. So for instance, with us doing bare root plantings now and no registration fee, so taking that out. We do still have a nod to the Conservancy regarding their annual tree offering, if you will. I know you just had yours a couple weeks ago. In the fall, okay, perfect. So the language that's here, and Gretchen, I can get a copy of this over to you so you can take a look. It's broad enough where it doesn't reference spring or fall or what have you. So all good there. Ginny, I know you had a couple comments, and if anybody else has any comments on this, would love to chat about it, and then we can talk next steps.
I just had a couple of slight comments. I just thought we should make it more clear that, and maybe instead of fully installed, maybe saying fully planted by the township, so they understood that, because I had a lot of questions. Well, can I plant it myself? Because, they wanted to put it in the back of their house and all that.
Right.
So, maybe just sort of beef that up to make sure they understand fully planted by the township.
Right. And if we'll have to get creative with that, because if we have, let's say, the township plant 30, and then we hire a contractor to plant more, but I think we can wordsmith that. But I agree, make it a little bit clearer based off of what you've heard.
And I guess my only other thought was maybe putting the street planning one, head of Radner Conservancy, sorry, Gretchen, only because it was a Shade Tree Commission initiative and flyer.
Sure.
So they, I mean, it's not really an important matter at all, but I was reading this and I thought, oh, well, where's our planning initiative? And then I got to the bottom, oh, there it is.
I think
That's all.
I originally did that because spring and then fall.
Oh, I see.
But now that's kind of, not relevant. But yeah, I hear you.
And so is Radner Trees definitely up and running?
It is.
Great, Seth.
RadnerTrees.com. It redirects
Super.
you to our page. But yeah, we're
Great.
good to go.
Okay, super. I think it looks great. Thanks for the big effort
Mhm.
here.
Sounds good. Okay. Any other comments on the flyer? Thank you. So the goal with this is I'll make those few updates as mentioned, and then
Excuse me, Seth.
we will float this by the township. Yes, Ricky, what do
I'm
you got?
sorry. I know we had a conversation.
We did. Thank you for the reminder. I told you I would forget. Oh, I'll reiterate. Yes. So under the last section for information regarding tree care and other things, the bamboo ordinance, just so that it's not the last thing that people see on the flyer, and trying to avoid a scenario of what we've seen with the private tree removals and why we're amending the ordinance. Ricky had proposed either rewording or shuffling the order around a bit, which I agree. I think we should end the flyer on a happy tree note rather than a sad bamboo note. So I'll make that revision as well. And thank you, Ricky.
You're welcome. Also, in talking about it with John, he had another idea, basically where it says invasive trees and plants to avoid.
Mhm.
We could just put bamboo in there and not actually say, a bamboo
Yeah.
ordinance, but just put,
That's a
bamboo
good
is
idea.
one of the
Mhm.
things, so it doesn't draw attention. But while we're on the conversation, I know we had talked earlier, I don't have the bamboo ordinance memorized, but
Mhm.
I know there's a 90-day encroachment notice,
Mhm.
and just with the way that things have been working business-wise, it is hard to get contractors to keep to that timeline. So I don't know if there's a way we can try to amend that
Mhm.
ordinance because of the way the world is now.
Right.
We'll tell a contractor who's supposed to come out and maybe have a remedy for someone's bamboo situation that I'm going through currently, and the date just keeps changing,
Mhm.
because of the workload they have. So I don't know if there's a way, the 90 days can be on there, if you think so, if the committee thinks so, but even if there's an addition where whoever they're reporting to, whether it's the director or whatever township staff, basically I think the most important part is they keep in communication with the staff, who's ever contacted them. Also, John goes out, the arborist goes out and looks at these properties to see what we can do. But it's kind of hard to put somebody on a time limit because the residents expect us to follow it. And I can't force a contractor to get here if they can't get there.
Right.
So the most important part, as long as we know what's going on, we can kind of, keep everyone in lieu, even if it's the commissioners, because I do have to report back to them
Mhm.
in regards to what's going on in their ward. So it just makes for a little easier. But again, I'm just presenting an issue that, I have to deal with the way things are going. I guess after COVID,
Sure.
things have changed.
Yeah, thank you, Ricky. Ricky and I spoke, and I agree, potentially updating that language to not stay true to, but to be in line with the hazard tree removal, where we removed the 5-day mandate and made the language a little bit more agreeable to, what the township or the collaboration between the township and the owner agreed to as a satisfiable timeline. I think we all know that, open-ended timelines can get out of control, but as long as, we hold ourselves true to a a reasonable timeline that works for all parties. I think that makes sense. So Eileen, I'm looking at you. And the rest of us, do we, are we okay with adding that into our batch of ordinance updates as something to tag along with? Okay. Ricky, could you send us the specific section in the ordinance? You can send it to Eileen and I. And if you have any recommendations of what you would like to see it updated to, and then we can discuss it. And then the memo that we put together, we can bring that to our next meeting to approve, to communicate to the township at that point, just so we have an opportunity to review it as a commission. Thank you. Okay, 8:11. Does anyone have anything else for old business? Perfect. New business? Perfect. Annual goals. We all know the goals. We're on track. Good job. Plant trees. Item 11, hazardous trees. So it looks like a fair amount. Were there anything noteworthy regarding the hazardous trees that were removed?
Just one question.
Nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay.
506 is the one that was here last week, right? Or last month? Is that just going all on hazardous trees?
Just keep coming back because they haven't fulfilled the requirement yet. So it's not a new hazardous tree review, just continuation of their last until we close it out.
Got it. Okay.
Is there an active dialogue between the resident and the township? As much as there can be?
It's kind of odd. So previously I got a phone call, I guess it was last week, from the other arborist saying, hey, when is the timeline? And I said, you've missed the timeline to resubmit. And then he calls me up and says, I'm no longer working for that person. So
Interesting. Okay.
where we are now, I have no idea.
Got it. If we don't hear from them, I mean, what's our recourse?
They were supposed to provide a mitigation plan for the trees that were removed without authorization. I would say we give them until the next meeting. At that point, Ricky and I will then start the process of looking into compensation.
Okay. Sounds good.
Through Mr. Rice.
Thank you for keeping tabs on that. All right, item 12, trees removed by Radnor Township. Ricky, anything noteworthy there?
No, all these trees were looked at by John and deemed hazardous, and everything met the standards.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, public participation. Any final words? Yes, Gretchen.
So I know, and I really appreciate the time that you guys have taken to work on considering any kind of ordinance updates. And I know that at one point I had given a couple of suggestions. One thing that I keep going back to is this commission has the ability to approve and disapprove each heritage tree application. And I'm just wondering if a project that comes along that has a lot of heritage trees, I guess I wish that you guys would fight harder to save heritage trees. I'm sure that, with project developments, it's, they want to get the project approved, but I guess I just wish that heritage trees that we could fight a little bit harder to save them, because they're just coming down at such a rapid pace. So.
Yeah, agree. And I think, the two ordinance updates that are prioritized are, one, increasing the fee in lieu of, because at the end of the day, even if we disapprove a tree, there's no legal recourse per se, where at the end of the day, what we could enforce would be, even if they take it down, which they could take it down if, even if we disapprove, we could fee in lieu of. So, you can't get out there and have tree police staff the heritage tree and not have it cut down.
Right.
But I think outside of that, increasing the fee in lieu of, and then also the percentage of heritage trees on site, preventing that, I think, will help. So we're definitely on the same page. We hate seeing all these big trees coming down. I think it's a perfect storm of, there's a lot of new development in the area. Obviously, that has its pros and cons, and we're reaching a lot of mature canopy in the area, just from when Radner was incorporated over 100 years ago. So it's tough.
And developers have a
It's really
different
tough.
priority.
They
So
do.
Saving trees is not usually part of their plan.
They do. So yeah, some are better than others.
Yeah.
For
Well,
sure.
I appreciate it, and just a final comment, I know that the township is moving forward, and I'm not sure where they are on a new comprehensive plan, but I think that an active dialogue between Shade Tree Commission, public participation will be crucial in kind of
For sure.
guiding an updated comprehensive plan.
Agree.
Thank you.
Totally agree. Thank you, Gretchen. All right. Any other public comment? Great. All right. Well, in that case, we adjourn. Thank you all for your great work. Have a good night.